We live in this digital world.
Yeah.
And it's all built on trust.
Right.
Right? And think about it.
Yeah.
Our online banking, medical records,
Hmm.
government communications, like everything really. It all depends on this trust and encryption to keep things secure.
Yeah.
What happens when the very foundation of that trust starts to crumble?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to really get into today. This kind of looming threat of quantum computers
Interesting.
and what it all means for the future of digital security.
Well, it's not science fiction anymore,
Right.
you know? Quantum computers are developing so fast.
Yeah.
And they have this potential
Okay.
to just shatter the encryption
Wow.
that we just totally rely on today.
So that's a little bit,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sobering thought.
It is.
So let's break it down.
Okay.
What is it about these quantum computers
Yeah.
that makes them such a game changer when we're talking about encryption?
I think it all boils down to how they actually process information.
Yeah.
So like a classical computer,
Uh-huh.
it uses bits, right?
Right.
Which is just like a 0 or a 1.
Right.
Quantum computers use these things called qubits,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and they can be 0,
Right.
1, or both
Hmm.
at the same time.
Yeah.
It's this quantum superposition along with this other kind of
Mhm.
mind-bending concept called entanglement,
Right.
but it just lets them perform calculations in ways that classical computers just can't.
Okay, yeah, so I'm starting to see where this is going. So how does all this quantum weirdness translate into actually breaking encryption?
So there's this thing called Shor's algorithm, this quantum algorithm that's specifically designed to factor large numbers, which might sound kind of mundane,
Yeah.
but factoring is the bedrock of all these encryption systems like RSA and ECC.
Yeah.
And so what takes classical computers years, even centuries, to factor a powerful enough quantum computer using Shor's algorithm could potentially do it in hours.
Wow.
Or days.
So it's not just that they're faster.
Right.
It's they're playing by different rules.
Completely different set of rules.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like having a master key that can unlock any door,
Right.
no matter how complex the lock is.
And that's what makes this harvest now, decrypt later threat so concerning, right?
Yeah, so
Bad actors could just be
right.
vacuuming up all this data.
Yeah, they're just hoovering it all up with the expectation that later they'll be able to decrypt it, you
Right.
know, when these quantum computers become more available.
And that's especially worrisome for information. That needs to stay confidential for a long time.
Right.
Like government secrets,
Government secrets.
financial records, medical data, that kind of thing.
All that, yeah.
Chilling thought.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's not all doom and gloom.
Hopefully not.
There's a whole field dedicated to this,
There is.
right? To building defenses against this threat.
Yeah, it's called post-quantum cryptography,
Okay.
or PQC for short.
Okay.
Essentially, it's the race to build new encryption algorithms that are resistant to both classical and quantum attacks.
Okay, so let's dive into that. Give us a little glimpse into what this post-quantum cryptography landscape looks like.
Sure.
What are some of the leading contenders in this cryptographic arms race?
There's a pretty diverse array
Okay.
of approaches being explored.
Yeah.
One that's really promising is lattice-based cryptography, which is basically based on the difficulty of solving math problems involving these complex geometric structures called lattices.
Okay.
Basically imagine this vast multi-dimensional maze where finding a specific point is just ridiculously challenging, even for a quantum computer.
So that sounds pretty robust.
Yeah.
What other types of PQC are on the horizon?
Another interesting one is code-based cryptography. It's built upon error-correcting codes. They're the same kind of codes that make our communications and our data storage more reliable.
Yeah.
The idea is to create codes so complex that breaking them would just be computationally prohibitive.
Okay.
Even for a quantum computer.
So it's like adding layers
It is, yeah.
of complexity to make it a quantum nightmare.
Exactly.
To try and decrypt.
Yeah. And then we have hash-based algorithms, which use functions that essentially scramble data in a way that's really difficult to reverse.
Yeah.
And they're really well suited for digital signatures, making sure that digital documents and transactions are authentic and have integrity.
So we've got like lattices.
We've got lattices.
Lattices code.
And hashes, each with their own strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
How do we decide, like, which one is the best?
Yeah. Yes.
Is there, like, a standardized process for, like, evaluating and adopting these new algorithms?
So that's where NIST comes in, the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Yeah.
They've been leading this, like, global effort to standardize PQC algorithms. It's this rigorous process of evaluation, testing, and ultimately selecting the most promising candidates. So it's like a cryptography Olympics.
It's a good analogy.
Right. With NIST as the referee.
Right.
Making sure it's a fair competition.
Absolutely.
And picking the champion of the post-quantum world. And the standardization is crucial.
It is.
Because it ensures interoperability. Right.
Yes. Meaning, like, different systems, different devices can all communicate securely using the same set of algorithms. We want to be able to talk to each other.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, alongside this post-quantum cryptography, there's another approach.
There is.
Right? This quantum cryptography.
Right.
Okay, so tell us about that.
Yeah, and specifically, quantum key distribution, or QKD. It leverages the principles of quantum mechanics to secure communications. It's really interesting because it uses quantum phenomena as this defense mechanism.
This sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on how it actually works?
So at its core,
QKD
uses entangled photons to create and distribute encryption keys.
Right.
And entangled photons are these pairs of light particles that are linked in such a way that any attempt to observe or intercept one instantly affects the other one, no matter how far apart they are.
So it's like this unbreakable, almost telepathic.
Yeah, it's like this spooky action at a distance that Einstein talked about.
Okay, and this connection can be harnessed.
It can.
To ensure secure communication.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So by using them to generate and share encryption keys, QKD offers this level of security that's theoretically unbreakable, even by a quantum computer, because any attempt to eavesdrop would be instantly detectable just because of the nature of entanglement.
So that sounds incredibly secure.
It does.
But are there any limitations?
There are a few.
Okay.
Like, one requires specialized hardware, like single photon detectors, dedicated fiber optic cables. This makes it more expensive, more complex than traditional systems. Additionally, the range is kind of limited right now because transmitting those entangled photons over long distances is difficult because of signal loss.
So while it holds this incredible promise,
it does.
It's not a plug-and-play solution.
Not for everything, right? It's more for those really sensitive communications where absolute security is like paramount.
So we have PQC, the workhorse, developing new algorithms for this post-quantum world. And then QKD, this specialist, leveraging these unique properties for ultra-secure key distribution.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about the transition itself. It sounds like a monumental task.
It is.
Right? To move our entire digital infrastructure to this quantum-safe model.
It's a massive undertaking. And it's something that organizations really need to start thinking about, now.
So, the first step.
Yeah, the first step is identifying which systems rely on vulnerable cryptography.
Right.
And this can be a challenge, especially for large organizations with these really complex IT environments.
So it's like taking inventory.
It is,
of every digital lock that needs to be replaced with a quantum-resistant one.
Yeah.
So where do we go from there?
Well, once you've identified the vulnerable systems, you need to assess the risk.
Right.
Like, what are the potential consequences? If these systems are compromised, how likely is it they'll be targeted?
So we're not just talking about changing passwords.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's like evaluating the entire architecture, right?
The whole thing.
Understanding where those weak points are.
Yeah.
And prioritizing what needs to be upgraded.
Exactly.
Okay.
You have to think about the sensitivity of the data, how long the system needs to be in place,
and
the cost of a potential breach.
Right. So it's balancing this urgency with practicality.
Yeah, you can't just...
Yeah, we can't rip and replace everything overnight.
Right.
There needs to be a phased approach.
A strategic phased approach.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that organizations might face?
One of the biggest hurdles is interoperability.
Right.
We need to make sure that these new PQC algorithms can work across all the different systems and platforms.
Right.
Imagine if banks couldn't communicate securely, or your healthcare provider couldn't access your medical records because they were using incompatible encryption.
So we're not just swapping out algorithms.
Right.
It's like making sure
the whole ecosystem.
The entire ecosystem can adapt.
Yeah, and then there's also the human element. You need to train your staff, develop new security protocols, communicate effectively with your stakeholders about what's happening and why it's important.
So it's not just a technological challenge.
It's very human.
It's a human one requiring education, awareness,
all of that.
A shift in how we think about security.
Right, yeah. And let's not forget that this is an ongoing challenge. This quantum landscape is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
New threats are emerging. Our understanding of quantum computing itself is constantly advancing.
So it's not a one and done.
No.
We need to be flexible, adaptable.
We need to be agile.
Willing to continuously update our systems.
Yeah, that's where the concept of crypto agility becomes vital. It's about designing systems that can easily adapt to these changes, allowing you to swap out algorithms without disrupting everything.
So we need to be building in this flexibility.
You got it.
From the ground up.
Right, from the start.
Knowing that what's secure today might not be enough tomorrow.
Exactly, yeah.
This agility needs to be, not just in the technology, but in the culture.
Organizational culture.
The mindset.
The mindset.
Of continuous learning. Yeah.
Constant learning.
Testing, adapting. To make sure we can respond effectively to whatever the quantum future holds.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's about this security-first culture.
Right.
Where everyone understands the stakes.
Yeah, and everyone's empowered to contribute to the solution.
Okay, so speaking of solutions.
Sure.
Let's circle back
Okay.
to quantum cryptography for a moment.
Okay.
Where does QKD fit in this larger transition?
PQC is likely to be like the workhorse of post-quantum security.
Yeah.
QKD is going to have a big role to play.
Okay.
Especially when we're talking about highly sensitive information.
Okay.
So imagine a world where critical infrastructure, financial systems, government communications are all protected by the unbreakable laws of quantum mechanics.
That's a pretty compelling vision.
It is.
And it could significantly bolster our defenses in this quantum era.
Absolutely.
But we can't ignore the potential downsides either.
No, right.
There are risks.
We've talked about the transformative power of quantum computing. But what about the risks?
Yeah, what are the ethical implications that we need to consider as this technology matures?
That's a great question.
Well, one of the most pressing concerns is the impact on privacy.
Right.
I mean, if quantum computers can break encryption, it means that no data, no communication will be truly secure.
Wow.
This could have a really chilling effect on freedom of expression.
Right.
And our ability to communicate freely without fear of surveillance.
It raises some fundamental questions.
Yes.
About who should have access to this and how it should be regulated. Do we want a world where governments or corporations have the power
to decrypt any communication?
Right. These are really complex questions that we as a society really need to start addressing. Like, now we need to make sure that the development and deployment of quantum computing is guided by ethical principles that prioritize privacy, security, individual rights.
It's about striking that balance.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
Harnessing this incredible potential.
Absolutely.
But mitigating the risks to our fundamental freedom.
Exactly. We need to be proactive in developing safeguards. Ethical frameworks, international collaborations to make sure that quantum computing is used for the benefit of humanity, not to undermine our basic rights.
And we also need to be mindful of the potential impact on, like, global power dynamics.
Right. Yeah, because the countries
Yeah.
and the corporations that control this technology
Right.
will have a significant advantage.
Yeah, so it's not just about cybersecurity. It's about geopolitics.
Geopolitics.
Economic dominance.
Economic dominance.
Exacerbating existing inequalities.
All of that.
We need to ensure equitable access to this technology.
Absolutely.
And prevent a scenario where the benefits are concentrated
in the hands of a powerful few.
Right.
We need a global dialogue.
Right, a global dialogue. And make sure that the quantum revolution
Right.
benefits all of humanity.
All of humanity.
And not
just a select few.
the select few.
This brings us back
Okay.
to collaboration.
Yeah.
We need to work together. Governments, businesses,
Right.
researchers, individuals, to navigate this uncharted territory responsibly and ensure that quantum computing is used for good,
For good.
not for harm.
We've been talking a lot about the theoretical, right? Of quantum computing and its impact on security.
Right.
Let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
What can organizations and individuals do right now to prepare for this quantum future?
So for organizations, the key is to start planning now.
Okay.
Conduct a thorough assessment of your systems, identify vulnerabilities, develop a roadmap for migrating to PQC. Explore your options.
Okay.
Stay informed about the latest developments and engage with experts to determine the best course of action.
So knowledge is power.
Yeah. The more you know about the threat, the better equipped you'll be
to defend against it. What about individuals?
For individuals.
Yeah, what can we do?
It's similar to what we already recommend for good cybersecurity, but with a quantum twist.
A quantum twist.
Use strong, unique passwords for all your accounts. Enable two-factor authentication wherever you can. Be extra vigilant about phishing scams, especially those that try to exploit the transition to PQC.
So the same rules apply.
They do.
But the stakes are even higher in this world where quantum computers could crack the codes we rely on.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else?
Yeah. It's also important to be aware of the products and services you're using. You know, start asking questions. Are they taking steps to prepare for the quantum threat?
Right.
Are they adopting PQC solutions? Your choices as a consumer can really influence the market and encourage wider adoption of these quantum-safe technologies. It's about
voting with our wallets. Vote
supporting companies that are prioritizing
You're thinking about
quantum security.
Quantum security, yeah.
Okay.
And ultimately, it's about staying informed and engaged.
Right.
This quantum revolution.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It is.
And it's one we all need to be a part of.
We all need to be a part of it. Now with all this talk about this transition, I think the question on everyone's mind is when?
When? Yeah.
When do we need to be ready for this quantum shakeup?
So predicting the exact arrival of what we call cryptographically relevant quantum computers.
Okay.
Or CRQCs.
CRQCs.
The kind that could break our encryption is kind of like predicting the weather. A lot of variables and a lot of uncertainty.
So no checking the quantum forecasts?
Not yet.
On our phones just yet?
Not quite.
Okay.
But we can look at the research. We can talk to experts.
Try to get a sense of the timeline. And most experts agree that we're probably looking at somewhere between 5 and 15 years.
So a fairly wide window.
Yeah.
But the takeaway is that it's not some distant science fiction scenario.
It's going to happen.
It's something that could happen within our lifetime.
Yeah, potentially sooner than we think.
And that's why it's so crucial to start preparing.
Exactly.
Right.
This transition to PQC is complex.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
It's going to take time.
Time, resources.
Coordination.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
No hitting the snooze button on this one.
We got to be proactive.
We need to be proactive.
Not reactive.
Not reactive.
Especially with that harvest now, decrypt later threat.
Right.
We talked about.
Exactly.
Even if a CRQC, that can break today's encryption, is still a few years away. The data being stolen today could be at risk in the future.
Yeah.
It's a ticking time bomb.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Chilling thought.
Yeah.
Really highlights the urgency of the situation.
Right.
We need to protect the data we have now.
Yes.
And prepare
at the same time
for the quantum threats of tomorrow.
It's a two-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Defend today,
Okay.
prepare for tomorrow.
Right.
And it requires a shift in mindset. Like, we need to move away from this traditional perimeter security model where you're just focused on building walls around data towards a more layered approach that emphasizes resilience and adaptability.
So instead of just building higher walls,
Right.
we need to be more nimble,
Nimble.
more adaptable to the evolving threat landscape.
Exactly.
Okay.
We need to think about security in terms of layers, like an onion.
Okay.
Even if one layer is breached, there are other layers to protect the data. And we need to be able to adapt quickly to new threats.
As they emerge.
As they emerge, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. It feels daunting, the quantum threat.
Right.
The transition to PQC, crypto agility, ethical considerations.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is.
So how do we begin to tackle such a complex challenge?
Well, it is complex, but it's also incredibly exciting. We're on the cusp of a new era in computing, an era that brings incredible opportunities and significant challenges. And just like with any new frontier, there will be obstacles to overcome and lessons to be learned.
Lessons to be learned along the way.
It feels like we're standing at the edge, this vast, uncharted territory.
Yeah, it's a vast new world.
Right.
Yeah, there's a sense of wonder.
Right.
But also a sense of trepidation.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay.
It's up to us to explore this new territory responsibly. Harness the power of quantum computing for good.
For good.
While mitigating the risks.
Right. So it's not just about
it's
the technology itself.
Right.
It's about
us.
How we use it.
Right.
How we manage it.
Right.
How we shape its impact on society.
The quantum revolution is not just a technological revolution.
Right.
It's a human revolution.
Okay.
And it's happening right now.
It's happening now. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good place to wrap up our deep dive into the world of quantum computing and its impact on cybersecurity. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the looming quantum threat to the race to build a secure future.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
By working together, staying informed, embracing innovation and adaptability, we can navigate this new frontier and harness the power of quantum computing for the benefit of humanity.
For good.
For good.
Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.